Hello there. Welcome in to this Thursday edition of the show. Great to have you, whether you're listening on at 740 KVOR, Extra Sports 1300, or the streaming apps of those two fine radio stations. They are both free to download. They are both free to use, and they're sponsored by Diversus Health, Mental Health, and well-being for all. A veritable cornucopia of sports topics await you, and I'd love to get your thoughts at 719-247-1313. You could call or text them in. Producer Ray is standing by. So the primary topic of conversation will be Game 6 tonight between the Nuggets and the Wolves, and the stakes are quite simple. Denver Nuggets win. We get Game 7 Saturday. They lose, and it is going to be a lot of very uncomfortable conversations about where this team is at and where they can possibly go from here. But let's talk about the game itself. You know, David Adelman said the other day that even though we didn't want to hear it, you learn things from losing. Here's what David Adelman has learned over the course of this series.
More depth. I thought the guys that came in changed the game for us. And then not to mention, I just thought we played a much more comfortable game. Looked more like us.
You know, it's funny. We're sitting here again on the precipice of the Nuggets season ending. And we're getting back to the whole point of this Nuggets season, right? Depth. That was the whole point. The Nuggets last year, no depth, lost to a team in OKC, lots of depth. So Ben Tenzer, John Wallace, they go out, they trade Michael Porter, they free up some money, and they acquire depth. So what David Adelman has essentially learned is that the very thing that was the number one priority for the Denver Nuggets is the thing that he needs to employ in order for them to win this series. Better late than never, I suppose, for David Adelman. But yes, the depth that the Nuggets displayed in Game 5 was key to them winning. Spencer Jones stepping in for Aaron Gordon played incredibly well. Jonas Valanciunas and his physicality was a big boost. And Tyus Jones even coming in and handling some of the ball, the point guard duties to take some of the pressure off of Jamal Murray, and doing that with no Aaron Gordon was important as well. Now, there's a little bit of a nuanced conversation because even I went back and looked at the Game 7 box score between the Thunder and the Pacers. The Thunder basically played 8 guys in the most important game of the year. So when you hear the word depth and you start running through the names, trust me, it's not going to be like 10 or 12 guys that are going to be playing in this game. In fact, a couple of the names I just mentioned are going to make merely a cameo. But this is the entire premise of what wins right now in the NBA, is having the ability, even for short stints, to be able to bring in almost like specialists. You think of a major league bullpen. Now, the way they use bullpens is like radically different than it used to be. But there used to be a seventh inning guy, a left-on-left guy, a closer, a setup man, a long reliever, like these roles that were clearly defined in a major league bullpen. And now that kind of thought process has entered the NBA. And I think Tyus Jones and Jonas Valanciunas certainly are the embodiment of that, because with Valanciunas, for the most part, it was just be physical. Set screens. Obviously, you could roll off of those screens and maybe get a bucket here and there, but we need your big frame. We need your physicality. Tyus Jones, we need another ball handler because Jamal Murray for 40 minutes can't be dealing with Jaden McDaniels all over him the entire way up the court. So this isn't about, hey, even going to Spencer Jones, who if Aaron Gordon doesn't play, I would say that he's going to be in the starting lineup. It's not about, hey, Spencer Jones, you got to get 20 again. And it's not Valanciunas or Tyus Jones being the hero necessarily, but it's David Adelman using the depth in certain situations. Mostly to be able to give, and even as I say this sounds like this is exactly what we were talking about all offseason. I don't know where we got lost along the way, that depth wasn't a part of the conversation. But the most important thing that the depth of the Denver Nuggets can do is give Nikola Jokic and Jamal Murray 5 minutes. Can you give them 5 minutes to take a breath here? Because to me, ultimately what decides this game is Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic. The part of the reason why it's viewed that the Wolves are going to lose this series is in large part because Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic are far better than really anyone the Minnesota Timberwolves are going to throw out there tonight. So whether it's and I think Tyus Jones and Jonas Valanciunas are the perfect guys to talk about in this situation because they are the like-for-like changes. And it's not about, because I've talked about this, the role players don't play as well on the road. But this isn't about Tyus Jones, go get us 15. Jonas Valanciunas, get us a double-double. It's for a couple minutes while Nikola Jokic or Jamal Murray rest, just be able to do the things that don't necessarily show up in a box score, but can allow the Denver Nuggets to hold serve for a little while. Because an extended run by the Minnesota Timberwolves tonight is going to be really bad for the Denver Nuggets. They got to figure out a way to minimize the runs that Minnesota is capable of going on. And I feel like, having a capable ball handler, bringing the ball up the floor, getting the Nuggets into their offense, and a big body to bring some of that physicality, screen guys open that Jonas Valanciunas can do. That's how the Nuggets can they're not going to, match the Timberwolves if they get hot basket for basket with their second unit in. But can they kill the clock a little bit? Can they get us to the next stretch of Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic being in the game? That's what depth is about. It's not about having 5, 6, 7 guys that can get you 20 a night. It's about having options in specialized moments to be able to ultimately allow your two superstars to win you this game. Because when you get to the brink of elimination, when you get deep into playoff series, deep into the playoffs themselves, you look to Jokic, you look to Murray, you look to your superstars. And that's the way how I boil down this game tonight. Yes, the depth is important, but the depth is what allows the two most important players on the floor for the Denver Nuggets tonight to do what they do effectively for as long as they're in the game. And I know that Jamal Murray has had a heck of a time with Jaden McDaniels, and Nikola Jokic, for the most part in this series, has had a heck of a time with Rudy Gobert. We know that Nikola Jokic is not healthy. He's even wearing a shooting sleeve, boarding the team plane. But these are two guys that have proven throughout their career, even if they are facing some difficult circumstances, maybe not totally healthy, they are still able on a one-night basis to be special. And that's what tonight requires. I get there's going to be a game 7, and we're going to reset this conversation. And a lot of the same ideas are going to be applied to a game 7. But it's how the Nuggets have to approach this. You're not winning. You weren't going to win 3 games in a row 3 nights ago. You're not going to win 2 games tonight. You can only win 1. You deal with Saturday. Can Jokic and Murray just be special tonight in Minnesota? And now history has not been kind. I know everyone wants to focus on the Nuggets rallying from 3-1 down. The last 2 times it's happened, it's been them. It was a different circumstance. It was in the bubble. I'm not saying it's fraudulent. I'm just saying it's a different environment, a different circumstance than this year is. I don't know that it applies. I really don't. And I don't know that the Nuggets' previous history in true road elimination games matters that much. They are 0-2 in true elimination games on the road. Golden State and Ray, help me out. What was the other one that it was? It was Golden State and OKC. Thank you. Yeah, the most obvious one. Remember that just happened the last year? I don't even know that is but it does underscore how difficult it is to win on the road. And I know Minnesota's missing who they're missing. But that crowd is going to be hype for tonight. They're going to look to get off to a fast start. Jamal Murray says they know that, and they got to be the ones to do that instead.
That's the playoffs. Everybody's going to try to throw the first punch. This is how you withstand those runs and what you do combat those errors and actions and stuff. So it's just a war for 48 minutes. That's how it's going to be mentally and physically. Just kind of keep your emotions in check. It's going to be rowdy. You got to try and get under your skin and all that. So simple, back to the basics, like I've said.
Fast start. No sustained runs. And the fast start, I'm more talking about the offensive end for the Denver Nuggets. I'm not saying that they have to go on a 10-2 run to begin this game. I mean, that would help. But just what we saw in Game 5 from the Nuggets offensively, do that again. Fast start, no sustained Timberwolves runs with or without Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic on the floor, because we know that especially Nikola Jokic has had his issues with the turnovers in this series. Fast start, no sustained runs, and everybody on that Nuggets team needs to make sure that they do their part to allow Nikola Jokic and Jamal Murray to do what they have done so many times. And then it will ultimately be on Nikola Jokic and Jamal Murray. But the way I feel about tonight's game, if Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic are themselves, the Nuggets are winning this game. But all that other stuff has to fall into place as well for the Denver Nuggets to take Game 6 and get this series back to Denver. And I've said it all week, and I'll say it again. Or not all week, I suppose. But I've said it the last couple of days. If the Nuggets win Game 6, they're winning Game 7. But Game 6 is far from a certainty. We'll have much more on this game as we move through the program. Love to get your predictions for tonight. Will the Nuggets stay alive and force a Game 7? 719-247-1313 is the number you could call or text into. Coming up next, what an epic night of soccer for Colorado Springs Switchbacks FC, and it feels like a huge moment, even though they were not the ones moving on in the U.S. Open Cup. Switchbacks head coach Alan McCann, gracious enough to take time to join me next on 740 KVOR and Extra Sports 1300. was a late evening last night, wasn't it? Got all you could ask for when it comes to that round of 16 U.S. Open Cup match between Colorado Springs Switchbacks FC and the Colorado Rapids. Ultimately, the Rapids do get past the Switchbacks 5-4 on penalties, but that just doesn't even, I did sports news this morning on KVOR, and I was like, how am I going to encapsulate everything that happened last night in just, like 10, 15 seconds? And I just couldn't. It was an epic match played by two really good teams. And even though it wasn't the result that we ultimately wanted, there's a lot to be positive about. Joining me now to discuss is the man that was right in the middle of it. He is the head coach of the Switchbacks, Alan McCann. Alan, really appreciate this. I know it was a late night for you as well. Day after, your thoughts on the team's performance last night?
Yeah, couldn't be prouder of the effort. Couldn't be prouder of how much we were able to showcase ourselves in the ugly moments, in the tough moments, in the moments that don't show up on the stat sheet. I thought there was some huge standout performances too, and also at the same time gutted that we didn't take an opportunity, especially when they had 10 men, and then on penalties too. Yeah, it's you know me. I'm never going to be happy. I'm miserable anyway. But so much, you're right. So much positive to take out of it. And then I was absolutely blown away by the supporters. Yeah, when I saw the tifo being unravelled, hearing them in the warm up, hearing them be louder than the home support throughout the whole game, all in unison. It was really impressive by the supporters. I'm still a little bit stunned, and I don't think I'll find words, which you know me, I like to hear the sound of my own voice. I don't think I'll find the words to genuinely describe how good that was from the supporters.
Yeah, it was incredible. And the president of the club, Brad Estes, I thought had a very nice note that he put out on social media today, talking about what that moment last night was. I think he felt like, I think the words turning point or something to that extent was used. Did that moment feel, bigger than even people like me made it out to be? Because I've been hyping up this moment all week, but did it feel like an even bigger moment while you were there?
I would say yes, from a supporter side. I don't think on a football side. I don't think so. I think if you go in with that attitude, you end up acting like you don't belong there. And I feel we belong there and more. In fact, I think it's an opportunity missed. But from the supporter side and from them being together and showing up together and putting that effort in the numbers that were there on a wet and cold Wednesday going into the late hours, because it's extra time and penalties. I do believe from that side, if that momentum could carry on, and I know the supporters group were huge in organising that, if they can continue to lead it that way too, and bring that to Widener Field, and you got to think of that would bring Widener Field experience up tenfold. And we do not have a bad experience at Widener Field. So if you could match the off-field supporters with that momentum, and we can get the on-field momentum, that's where I believe I would agree with Brad on that. From a supporter standpoint, maybe they've realised they can do something themselves too. Really impressive. It was. The tifo unraveling for me was the moment where it caught me off guard. Absolutely.
Alan McCann, Switchbacks head coach, my guest, talking about some of the particulars from the match. When you go into penalty kicks, how much is it a scout that you have on their young keeper? How much is it just telling the boys, go out there and do what you're comfortable doing in that moment?
Yeah, I said it in the locker room after. I will respect any man who's brave enough to step up and take a penalty, converted or not converted. Luckily enough, we have a body of work and training where if our small sided games or any game within training is tied, we will settle that with penalties. So since pre-season, we're able to see a good body of work. Then it's okay who was confident in the moment, who who has that ability, that technical ability to execute in those moments, and then the last piece is holding your nerve and character. So I felt like it's I will always pick the order, and I will pick it off those features because then all the lads have to do is focus on going up. And what we said in the moment is focus on going up, picking your corner, picking your side, and trust yourself. It's a lottery at the end of the day. They miss some and we miss some. So yeah, that's kind of the whole process of how we choose who goes up there.
Twice in that match, your team fell down. One early, and you think, yeah, your team can recover from that. The second goal that they scored, I would imagine there are a lot of people, maybe the ones wearing Rapids gear, thought that's a wrap when the Rapids scored that second goal. Why wasn't it? And what is it about this team that allowed you to come right back and force that penalty and get the game level?
Well, they've done it before. They've done it in New Mexico, and then we collapsed and conceded another. But the group has it in them. And that comes from the people that they are. First and foremost, they are. You just use Juan Tejada as an example. Having been around him for so long, he's never going to give up. He's going to die on the pitch before. He will run the legs off himself before he's going to give up. So when you have that inherently within the spine and you have that within the group, that gives you always at least a bit of hope in those moments. But hope isn't a strategy. So when we get more men in the building like that who have that mentality, and then when we practice that, we genuinely practice that throughout pre-season and when we have a usual training week, because this has not been a usual training week. We put them into situations in those moments. There's 5 minutes to go, 10 minutes to go, you've just conceded, or you're 1-0 up. All these moments, I think then that can help when you're actually put in the moment while the lights are on, So it's not the very first time you've been exposed to it. But we could train them all we want, but if the character's not there and if the people are not right, these moments will never show up. And I explained to to yourself and a lot of people in the off season, these are the moments we will expect to show up, and we'll expect to get last minute winners. We'll expect to get last minute equalizers that feel like a winner. And if you remember, even the Lexington game here, that very, very last play was the set piece, and we should have scored on it, and it goes right past the post. Those moments we need to execute, and they need to show up more. So it is something we want to see and we want to have within our arsenal. You can't rely on it every week, but none of the training and none of the planning happens without the right people, genuinely. And thankfully we have those people in the spine of the team, and they can carry the whole 11, or the starters plus the finishers who come off the bench.
How has Christian Herrera evolved as a goalkeeper in the time you've had him?
Well, when I think all the way back to 22, when Brendan was here, and Jeff Caldwell was kind of ahead of him that year, and you see his evolution from that year to now. I think maturity as a man, number one, very self-aware in his strengths and in his weaknesses and areas, again, to move and lean into strengths has been a focus of everyone this year, and he has absolutely done that, I think, especially from the SKC game on. You're seeing moments last night where I think only he can pull off the reaction saves.
That one right here, Alan.
Yeah,
I was flabbergasted. That was an amazing save that he made.
But you think back to Western Conference final against Vegas, he pulls off a save like that too in the very last minute, actually against Corey Bennett. And without that, we don't advance through. So he is capable of that, and when he's in rhythm and when he's confident and when he's building into his strengths, he can produce these moments. And again, he pops up with a save, and even the one where they hit the post with the penalty. I believe, from my angle, I haven't watched the replay back, I believe he had it covered. And when you're taking a penalty up against that big frame, or you're going one-on-one with that big frame, it causes errors, and it causes, attacking players in that moment to maybe second guess themselves or at least hesitate. But his evolution through, I think he's very particular in his training, and you have to give a lot of credit to Callie Brown as well. Him and Callie have a great relationship, and even now you've got him, Callie, and Colin Shuttler. And we've spoke to you about every position having at least two deep. Well, now the first person I saw go over to Chris last night was Colin, so it's the two of them can keep each other sharper. So I believe he can go up even more levels, if you want the honest truth. And I believe Colin can go up more levels too. And the two of them knowing that on any given week they can be playing because the other guy is capable. The other guy maybe has different strengths to what I have. But that at any given point, they can be pushed to their ultimate peak. I believe that's where you're seeing now Chris really benefit from that.
Last thing for you, Alan McCann. You got a game in like 48 hours. You gotta go down. You gotta go down to San Antonio, which, as you well know, that place has not been kind to us over the years. So, your thoughts? I mean, how do you? I guess, how do you turn the page from such an emotional night, such a big moment for your club? Obviously, the way it ended makes it even more emotional. How do you turn the page and get this team locked in to go down to a place that, again, has not been kind to the Switchbacks over the years?
Yeah, it hasn't been kind, but neither had Phoenix. Phoenix hadn't been kind to us either.
Fair.
So I've asked. We've turned. We've turned something around as a group for the club in Phoenix. We've gotten to the furthest point we've gotten for the club in Open Cup, and you go to penalties and you're an inch away of bringing it even further. So there's two firsts for the club in a long, long time. Why not San Antonio? Why not notch 3 off in 1 week? What will it take to do that? It will take this group of men digging deep into physical reserves and mental reserves. Are they capable of it? 100%. Are they willing to do it? 100%. Are they willing to sacrifice themselves for the cause? No doubt. And that's a huge foundation. I think without any of that, we would be really, really struggling going into third game on the road in 1 week. But last night in the locker room, that's where the focus shifted to straight away. One last push for this week. Can we do one more thing to change a narrative in a place that hasn't been kind to us, like you said? Well, why not go and change that as a group? I don't see a reason why not. The group doesn't see a reason why not. So the last piece then is using our depth. And in other weeks where we were Saturday, Wednesday, Saturday, or had a cup game and then a league game, we've been able to rotate through and use the depth and be confident in using that depth. So it's going to take a bringing together of all those elements to give us success. But without the characters willing to do it, we wouldn't be able to do it. But luckily enough, we've got the characters in the building. So we're going to go down there and we're going to go swinging, just like we went into last night swinging. And let's go punch for punch.
Love it. Alan, you're great for doing this. Safe travels down to San Antonio, and we'll talk soon, my friend, okay?
Cheers, Ryan. Yeah, see you soon. Thank you.
Yep, my pleasure. That is Alan McCann, the head coach of Colorado Springs Switchbacks FC. What an epic night of soccer. And we were talking about Christian Herrera there. You're gutted for all the boys, right? Because they played incredibly hard, and the Rapids have that striker of theirs is legit. They got a guy that might be on the U.S. men's national team. They're rushing his citizenship so they can get him on Pochettino's squad for this summer. Like, that's a quality team. And I think Roland Vargas, my broadcast partner, put it best. And he said it a couple of times throughout the broadcast last night. If you didn't know who was the MLS team and who was the USL championship team, you wouldn't be able to tell. You won't be able to tell. And that's what this kind of competition is all about, to showcase yourself. And that's a word that Alan has used throughout the week. Showcase what you can do. There was, for large stretches of the match, a negligible difference between the quality that the Switchbacks had and the Rapids had. And the final scoreline shows that. 2-2 after 120 minutes of soccer and 5-4 on penalties. Hard to not, I mean, last night driving home, I was gutted. It was tough. But I woke up today, I'm like, man, how proud that you got to be of this team for what they have done and what they will do. In San Antonio coming up Saturday night, you can hear it on Extra Sports 1300. Take your thoughts on last night. If you were up there at Dick's Sporting Goods Park, I'd love to hear your experience. Man, did the Switchbacks fans show out. Good on you. Great on you. More Drive Time Sports after this. Thanks again to Switchbacks head coach Alan McCann for joining me. Shouts to Ashley, best at what she does in terms of convincing. I'm pretty sure Ashley, her what her job description is convince Alan to once again waste his time talking to me. I feel like that's her main job, and she does a great job of convincing him that just one more time talk to Ryan. But that was a lot of fun last night. I do want to bring you, because I talked about it a little bit in my conversation with Alan McCann. And I'm glad that Alan went there early in our conversation, because I was inevitably going to go there. It looked different. And I'm seeing a lot of, Axel, who used to work with the club. What up, Axel, if you're watching? Talked about how on the television broadcast or streaming television, whatever it is, that the Switchbacks fans sounded louder than the Rapid supporter section. And I've had the great fortune of knowing quite a few members of the supporters group, Jason, Annie, and they have been down since day one. And they have also, Greg, another one, they've also done a great job of, welcoming people in. Soccer, there is no fan base in all of sport that gatekeeps more than soccer fans. Maybe more than American soccer fans, as ironic as that is. It is down the list of our most popular sports, yet people who are fans of that sport, not one of our main sports, not one of our original sports, that's more for the people overseas, but soccer fans tend to gatekeep more than anybody else. Highfalutin, elitist. That does not describe the supporters of the Colorado Springs Switchbacks. They are welcoming. They want to go out. They want to get you to a game. They want you to come out to the tailgate before the match. They want you to be a part of it. They want you to fall in love with the sport and the team the way that they did. And it's working. And in Colorado Springs, sometimes, a lot of the time doesn't get confused for one of the most maniacal sports cities in America, right? There's a lot of turnover with our population. There's a lot of people from a lot of different places. You go other places and people are born and raised there. It seems like that's less and less the case here. So it's difficult for something, that's a community like sports to really build up in this city. So it's taken a while. And the stadium downtown, I think, has been nothing but a huge boost to the support that the Switchbacks have gotten. And then you have a few years later, you have a championship, and the number of people I heard from that I didn't even know that they knew what I did as one of my many hats that I wear. But they're talking to me about the Switchbacks and how exciting it is that they won a title. Last night feels like one of those moments. There are a lot of people who are very interested in that, and we're pulling for the Switchbacks. And I promise you that there were a few people who are maybe attending their first or second Switchbacks match last night because of how big it was. But I want to give all the credit in the world to the supporters, as Alan did, because they have grown that community. Nothing that I have done grows that community. It's fans and supporters bringing in new fans and supporters. And to that end, Brad Estes, the president of the club, who's still new here, right? I mean, he had a good background on the history of the club and this city and everything, but, you know, you don't know until you've experienced it. In just a short time that he's been president, I think he's seen how special this thing could be. And he wrote a note, letter, however you want to put it. It was put out on the Switchbacks Twitter account earlier this afternoon. And it's a message to the supporters. And I'm not going to read it word for word. It takes away some of how special it is if I'm reading it. I would go to the Switchback social media accounts and read the entirety with yourself. But I see the amount of work they put in every single day to make you proud, talking about the team. And when you show up like that, they have an extra gear. Thank you. Something special is evolving with the Switchbacks. If you paid attention over the last few weeks, you've seen it. With your ongoing support, there's no telling where this team can go. And that's something that's also very unique about soccer, is how truly the community can lift up the team and the club itself. I mean, we're not talking about moral victories here or anything like that. Last night sucked in the end. It did. And again, Christian Herrera guessed absolutely right on that final penalty kick. And still, as cruel as sports can be, it slipped underneath him. So and Alan McCann is this way too. He's not looking at it last night like 100%. This is a smashing success. Wanted to win. They went up there to win. They didn't win. There's disappointment. But it's hard not to think that there's something that's changed. And not with as Alan pointed out, not with the soccer itself. Because as Brad points out in his letter, it was already starting what they did against Sporting Kansas City. And then they carried it to Monterey Bay. And Alan just mentioned it in our conversation in the last segment. Phoenix was not a place that the Switchbacks have historically gone down to and gotten results. There is a you never know, right, when you make a head coaching change. And Allen's predecessor, James Chambers, I think the highest of. I think Chambo, good coach, better person. But the mentality that Allen has brought to this club, and you can hear it. Ray and I were talking about it during the break. Like, he is the embodiment of one of those coaches that you want to run through a wall for. And I think the players are doing that. By the way, I guess this is, I don't think it being the Switchbacks on the draw would change anything. They would be the team in for the Rapids. The Rapids will be playing San Jose Earthquakes. For some reason, I'm weirdly curious about where the Rapids ended up, and I'm thinking in my head, oh, that's where the Switchbacks would be. All MLS clubs, but the last two USL championships teams remaining were Louisville City and the Switchbacks. And there are a lot of them in this competition. A lot of them. I think, again, another thing to be proud of, even if last night's result was gutting. And I think that's the appropriate word to use with that. But see where 48 hours, they got to turn around and play one of the standard bearers of this league for years, San Antonio, in a place that feels like they never win. But there's been a lot that the Switchbacks have never done or have done rarely that seem to be occurring a little bit more lately. Special night. Again, I'd love to get your thoughts, especially if you were at the match last night. What was that like? 719-24-7, 1313. Coming up next, we'll get to our other big topic of conversation today, which is Game 6, and an interesting conversation, a war of words going on between Wolves fans and Nuggets fans. Almost like, who has it worse with the injuries, the Nuggets or the Wolves? And of course, we'll update you because there's been some changes, especially on Minnesota's side, on who may or may not be available tonight. It's not my favorite topic to discuss because I just rather everybody be healthy and decide things that way, but that's not the reality. So who has more of a claim that injuries have hampered them, the Nuggets or the Wolves, and who will be available tonight in Game 6 in Minnesota? Nuggets need it if they're going to get back here to Colorado for a Game 7. Of course, you can hear that game tonight on Extra Sports 1300. Tip-off is at 7:30, and I would encourage you, as Ray and I did today, to head out to the Brass Tap. We didn't go. We went when the Rockies were on today. You can go when the Nuggets are on tonight. They're offering $3.50 pints, Coors Light, Coors Banquet, as well as Miller Lite and Mountain Time Sports, Spirits, Social, the Brass Tap. Coming up next, who's more snake bit with injuries, Nuggets or Wolves? Welcome in. Great to have you. Shouts to those of you watching the show. Anywhere you scroll at 740 KVOR and at Extra Sports 1300 while you're there, if you would please like, subscribe, follow. My self-esteem is directly tied to how many of those I get on a daily basis, and you don't want me to be sad, do you? You can also comment on the live stream, and I will proudly display your comment on the live stream. You can also call or text into the show at 719-247-1313. Game 6 tonight, 7:30 on Extra Sports 1300. Nuggets needed to stay alive. No songs, just I happen to say staying alive. An interesting conversation, one of the few that are actually still had on Twitter these days, is about essentially which team is more hampered by injuries. And I brought this up the other day. Like, yes, the series was heading towards the Minnesota Timberwolves winning. And then Anthony Edwards and Dante DiVincenzo got hurt. However, part of the reason that it was heading in the direction it was heading in was because Aaron Gordon was severely hampered or not available at all in multiple games of this series. So, like, my whole thought was don't discount what the Nuggets are going through without Aaron Gordon. And we've talked about Aaron Gordon all season and what he means to this team. So if you want to say that the series has pivoted and shifted in the direction where it seems like the general consensus is the Nuggets are going to come back from 3-1 down and win this series because of the injuries to Anthony Edwards and Dante DiVincenzo, fair play. But just know that the Wolves, a big reason why they had the lead they had was because of how limited Aaron Gordon's been. But injuries happen, and nobody wants to hear it. It just comes across as excuses. But a conversation has started on Twitter, basically with Timberwolves fans accusing Nuggets fans of believing that missing Aaron Gordon and Peyton Watson is as significant as the Wolves not having Anthony Edwards and Dante DiVincenzo. And their assertion is it's not comparable. It's not even close. I just don't think they understand how important Aaron Gordon is. The Peyton Watson, Dante DiVincenzo, I'll even say it right off the top here. Yes, the Wolves missing those two players is more significant than the Nuggets missing Aaron Gordon and Peyton Watson. I just say that. It is. But to say it's not comparable is to not understand the dynamics within the Denver Nuggets, which I don't expect a rival fan base to understand. Aaron Gordon is the heart of this Nuggets team. When they are lacking physicality, when it seems like maybe the effort level is not there. They don't want it as much as Minnesota does. That's all things that Aaron Gordon helps balance the scales in. If you want to look from a basketball perspective, as a ball handler, as a screener, him in that dunker spot, rebounding, David Adelman went on for the better part of a week about the glass and how the Nuggets are being beaten there. Well, Aaron Gordon, that's maybe the best thing that Aaron Gordon does. Defensively, the Nuggets' inability to handle the Wolves can be tied to Aaron Gordon. Like, there are very few things about the Denver Nuggets and what they do well that doesn't have to do with Aaron Gordon. And Anthony Edwards is a better player than Aaron Gordon. Dante DiVincenzo is a better player than Peyton Watson, I believe. But to say that it's not on par with one another, that it's not at least worth the conversation, I don't agree with that. Both of these teams have been extremely hampered by injuries. And I'll just say this, both fan bases should be petrified about what Wemby's going to do to them in the next round. But that's a problem for another day. Both of these teams have had their fair share of injury. And that's not even to mention the fact that the best player in this series, Nikola Jokic, is not healthy. So everybody goes through it. Everybody has to find a way around it. There's a reason why a 7-game series is played. So it's not a one-off situation where, Anthony Edwards is out for this game, now you're eliminated. No, you still have time to compensate, to figure out other ways. And Nikola Jokic gave the Timberwolves staff their flowers the other night when he said they're going to come up with different ways to essentially account for the loss of Anthony Edwards. This is why series last 7 games, to give teams time to be able to figure out other ways around it. It's not a wash, the injuries. It's not a wash. But to think that the Wolves are the banged up team and the Denver Nuggets are fully healthy and at their full strength that's nonsense. Now, as far as tonight goes, Aaron Gordon, altogether now, questionable with that calf injury. And you need him on the floor for so many reasons. But there's a fine line between the boost to morale that having Aaron Gordon will, and him looking like he did the other night, where it almost backfires. And I think that's what David Adelman realized as that game went on. It's nothing against Aaron Gordon. The guy is giving it everything he had. But, his shots had almost no chance of going in. And who's he staying with defensively? And there's a point where you look at a guy as a negative. And I think that's what David Adelman is kind of wrestling with a little bit. Ultimately, it will be, the trainers and the medical staff to decide or to clear him. But I think David Adelman really has to weigh this here, because the Nuggets have no margin for error. They can't, give it a whirl and see what happens. If there is not some level of confidence that Aaron Gordon is going to be impactful, and he doesn't have to be impactful at the level when he's perfectly healthy, but can you label him as impactful? And I feel like the last game he played and going back to game 7 with OKC, I don't know that you could describe Aaron Gordon as impactful. And you need impact from everybody you're going to put on the floor if you're David Adelman. Peyton Watson out. So that does it for the Nuggets portion. And this will only give Wolves fans more ammunition to talk about how snakebit they are. Ayo DeSumo, the hero of Game 4, and by the way, their second leading scorer in Game 5. As the Wolves try to piece this together without DiVincenzo or Anthony Edwards, it's worth noting that the guy that was second on the team in scoring in Game 5 is questionable himself with a similar injury to Aaron Gordon. He's got a calf issue. So we'll see where Minnesota goes. And here's the depth thing. Again, led off the show by David Adelman talking about how important depth is. Well, all of a sudden, when you have injuries, it saps your depth. And now you're looking, okay, we already don't have Anthony Edwards and DiVincenzo, and now Ao DeSumo might not play. Bones Highland, there was some doubt that he would play. Now he's available. He's got a knee. He's got two of them, actually, he's got a knee injury. But Bones will be able to go. He may not be 100%, though. DeSumo, like Aaron Gordon, we're going to all find out together, perhaps within the next hour or so. And then, and this is one, I don't want to hear anybody from the Great Lakes area bring up this. What did you show me, Ray? Kyle Anderson is out with an illness. Questionable with an illness. Like, I get it. It's just another one. And if tonight by chance, who would be the comp? Like Zeke Najee was questionable with an illness. You wouldn't go, oh, well, there goes the game. But you would go, oh, of course, there's another. Can we not just stop with the injuries and illnesses? So I don't think Kyle Anderson's illness is ultimately what decides tonight's game. My whole life in this career is waiting to be wrong. I don't think I'm going to be wrong about Kyle Anderson's impact. But I get it. If you're a Wolves fan, it's just like, again, another thing. So I think the Ao DeSumo thing is massive. I really do. And not because I think that he's capable of another 40 piece, but you just start to look down the Wolves roster and you go, who's the next guy up? Jaden McDaniels had a really good game in game 3. Solid 4 and 5, not what he was in game 3. DeSumo was the second leading scorer behind Julius Randle. So I think DeSumo, I think the two guys with the calf problems are the ones I look at. I mean, Aaron Gordon, with or without DeSumo, the number one option on offense is going to be Julius Randle. And I thought Spencer Jones did well guarding him. Guy still ended up with like 27 points. Volume probably was the biggest part of that. But still, he was their leading scorer. Julius Randle was. If Aaron Gordon is available and impactful, there's that word again, that's the guy he's going to be guarding. And it's not like the Jokic, Wemby, Jokic, Embiid thing where they don't actually guard each other. Like Randall and Gordon would be guarding each other. That would be an actual matchup. So if Aaron Gordon is available and impactful, I think that's enough to tip the scales in the Nuggets' favor tonight. If they weren't there already, and I would welcome your thoughts on the subject, 719-247-1313. But on the other side with Ao DeSumo, you really have a hard time looking at the Wolves roster and go, okay, DeSumo was their leading scorer in game 4, second leading scorer in game 5. He's out. Who after Randall? And, just like Spencer Jones in game 5, unlikely heroes. Could it be a turn back the clock game for Mike Conley? I'm not saying they won't get contribution from somebody else. I just don't know who that would be. I think at this point, with the injuries that the Wolves have already sustained, to lose DeSumo too, that may be a bit too much, even at home. See, I told you 2 days ago I was going to maybe talk myself into picking the Nuggets tonight. I still have an hour and 45 minutes. But I'd love to get your predictions. 719-247-1313. 1313. Game 6, 7:30 tonight on Extra Sports 1300. Because I'm not fair to my guests, I'll put Jessica Mendoza on the spot from KKTV 11 before I actually have to render my prediction for tonight. She joins me next. Stay tuned. Pretty important basketball game tonight if you are a fan of the Nuggets or the Wolves, or heck, if you're just a fan of basketball. I mean, season's on the line. Are we getting a game 7? Nuggets and Wolves 7:30 tonight. Joining me now to discuss is somebody who's very much hoping that she will be in the building Saturday for a game 7. She is Jessica Mendoza of KKTV. Will you go Saturday if the Nuggets are in a game 7, Jess? Oh, and by the way, hi.
Sorry, what was that? Hi?
Oh, I just said hi.
Oh, hi.
Just
like,
being
what?
polite, as is customary.
Yeah, just starting off with the hard balls. Jeez, Ryan.
Yeah, right.
No, I won't be there Saturday, but we will as KKTV. I think you've had Corey Roldan on your show quite a bit. He'll be there for us on Saturday when the Nuggets force a game 7.
Are you just playing to my audience, or do you really believe that?
I think they win tonight. I think the Nuggets have every reason to win this game. And I think, they should absolutely pull off another 3-1 comeback in the series.
Do you think that means something? The 2-3-1, what they did in the bubble. Do you think that they can draw anything from that?
I think it means they like to do more work than they have to. I think they like to get themselves in trouble and and try to do something that no one thinks they can do. No, I mean, I think what kind of we talked about just off the screen the other day together was just how this team has a hard time getting going sometimes, right? It's hard to get them ready for these games. I don't know what it is about this team, what it says about them. It's obviously concerning that there's so many times where you watch this team and you're like, this is the playoffs, and you look like you're just in some meaningless regular season game. They don't look prepared. They don't look excited. They don't look hungry. But then I think when their backs are against the wall, they like to something turns on inside of them. And so I definitely think they're capable of pulling off this comeback, especially with, all the injuries that you were just talking about in your last couple segments. So the Nuggets have no reason not to win tonight or especially on Saturday either.
I'm reading between the lines, and if I were to ask you the question of why ultimately, or who is the reason why this series going back to Denver, would I be wrong in reading your mind and saying you're expecting Jamal Murray to have something to say about the Nuggets' fate this evening?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, David Adelman was talking yesterday, once they got into the Target Center for their shoot around, he was talking about kind of the difference and what made the difference in game 5. And that was really the team working to get Jamal Murray more open, and how that just creates more guys to get open in their offense as well, opens other guys up, helps Cam Johnson, obviously helps Nikola Jokic. And Jamal Murray has been outstanding in this series for the most part. I mean, 3 games with at least 30 points. So I'm hoping for another big one from him tonight. And of course, Nikola Jokic as well. I mean, the Nuggets have won every game where he's had a triple-double in the playoffs so far. So fingers crossed for another big game for Joker.
Yeah, but he's not healthy, is he, Jessica?
No, he's not. He's definitely not. And, the schedule has not really helped either. I mean, obviously, this is the playoffs, and we were all hoping that Nikola Jokic was going to be 100%. But it's taxing on these guys, right? And I think the loss of Aaron Gordon and not having him and not having him fully healthy when he has been in either just puts more on the Joker's back. So I know we're asking for a lot, and I'm not sure the longevity of this team in the playoffs down the road. But, he has these moments where he looks healthy, and then he has moments where he's hobbling around the court, he's walking around, he's got a wince on his face. So it's hard, and he's always going to be that guy that kind of brushes it off, isn't going to want to talk about it, says everyone's hurt this time of year, everyone's got something going on. But it'll be interesting once their season does come to an end to see just kind of how the team will address that and what's really going on.
Did you hear any booing of David Adelman the other night?
I didn't. I saw a couple tweets about it, or posts on X. I didn't hear that. I definitely heard the Jaden sucks chance at the end of the game, but no boos of Adelman. I'm not saying it didn't happen, but it wasn't noticeable to me.
If this team, let's say, loses this series, you and I will talk before. If the Nuggets get through, we'll have another conversation about before the Spurs. But if the Nuggets lose this series, can you see David Adelman being one and done as the Nuggets head coach?
I could definitely see it, and I understand people's reasoning for why that's appropriate, why they'd be calling for it. I understand it for sure. I mean, you have the best player in the world, and expectations are going to be extremely high. And if you don't win the championship, I think no matter what, I think people will be calling for Adelman's job, and they're going to want to start it over. But then that begs the question: okay, where do you go from there? Who are you bringing in to coach the best player in the world and get this team back to the finals? Personally, I still would say run it back with Adelman. Let's see what he can do in year 2. I think, again, expectations are high. We're in a championship window, having Nikola Jokic and having Jamal Murray, who just played his best season. However, I kind of do like the way that Adelman has treated this team and how he has had their backs. And he did address that also yesterday in Minnesota. I know people weren't happy with, him coming in and kind of saying, don't talk badly about my team after that horrible, horrible performance in Minnesota even. But, he kind of doubled down on what he said. He said, I know my team. I know their tendencies. I know the things that they need to hear. And hey, I mean, they did end up, coming back and having an incredible performance in Game 5. So I'm not saying that he hasn't done anything wrong and he's been the best coach. He's been perfect. But I do think, it's his first time being a head coach. I think he's got some things to work out. And I think the Nuggets would be in a worse place trying to start completely over for the second year in a row.
Can you envision the Avalanche not winning a Stanley Cup? I mean, I'm just trying to get a vibe check here after they swept through the LA Kings. Does it feel somewhat inevitable, being at Ball Arena or following the Avalanche? I mean, where are you at with them as we continue to not so patiently wait for Minnesota and Dallas to get done with their series?
Right. Yeah. No, I can envision a scenario where they're bounced before they lift Lord Stanley and this thing is all over. Because there's been so many years in recent history where I've probably sat here and told you that they're going to win the Stanley Cup and they should do it. However, this feels different. I have probably a 96% confidence in
that
this
is a
team.
random number.
I know, 96. I love to do that around here. They're like, okay, what are the odds that the Nuggets are moving on? I'm like, give me a 52.5% chance. So I'm always pulling out something random, but I am very, very confident in this team. The only reason I have a little bit of, I can see it happening, like I said, is because I've had that disappointment before. All of these Avs faithful have had that disappointment before. But like you mentioned on my show on Tuesday, I mean, this team isn't thinking that way. They have that confidence. The way that Scott Wedgwood is playing, this is just kind of unlike something in the past. And especially if the Wild can get the win tonight, I'll feel that much better.
Nazem Kadri is rooting for Game 8 of the series. He doesn't even want a 7-game series. He wants an 8-game series. And you bring up Scott Wedgwood. You're in the storytelling business, and you do a great job of it every night on KKTV. I mean, I don't really have a super pointed question, but just how awesome is the story of Scott Wedgwood?
Yeah, I absolutely love it. I love that Bednar went with their quote unquote hot hand for the playoffs. I think, it seemed obvious, but you never know what was going to happen, really. And I love hearing what he has to say after every game. He's just so nonchalant and relaxed. And even being asked about this long break, the rest versus rust, if they're worried about, having too long of a break before facing either the Wild or the Stars in the second round. This guy's used to having these long breaks before games, right? He just said he's gone weeks, if not months, between starts at a time. So he's not worried about it at all. And you could just tell this team plays so much better around him. They love him. They feel so much better playing in front of him. So truly just such a cool story. And fingers crossed that it ends perfectly for Wedgwood and the rest of the Avs.
Last thing before I let you go, what is the more, how do I want to put this? What's a bigger deal? Aaron Gordon's calf or Bo Nix's ankle?
Mm. Oh no. I mean, that's the kind of messed up thing about this situation with Bo Nix is, do we know? Do we know how big of a deal this is? I mean, I'm seeing people on one side saying this is normal, this is, how it goes, and he's still going to be ready. And then other people are saying this isn't normal. So I truly don't know what to think. I mean, we're going to have to wait and see once we get to training camp what Bo Nix looks like. But I feel like until that point, I'm not letting myself panic. And I think that would be my advice to Broncos country, because until we know that this isn't run of the mill and this isn't how things are supposed to go. I mean, even if it is a little bit unusual, right? They're still saying he'll be ready to go. So what is there to worry about? There might be more injuries down the road. There might not. So let's just wait and see how he looks, right?
Right. And at least we here in Colorado have some other sports teams to distract us from
Very
the
true.
inevitable conversation around Bo Nix's ankle. We'll leave it there for now. So all game 6 all the time on KKTV tonight.
Yeah, game 6, maybe a little update on who the Avs will face depending on what happens. But that game 6, and I don't know, potentially some Rockies here and there. We'll see.
Yeah. Well, yesterday, yes. Today,
Yeah, today, no.
I don't know about that. Although I think the real sign of progress with that organization is that you're actually considering including them in your rundown. I think that that in itself is a big win for the team at 20th and Blake. Jessica, really appreciate it. Enjoy the game tonight.
Thanks, Ryan. See you soon.
See ya. That is Jessica Mendoza of KKTV 11. Catch her this evening, 5:30 and 10. And we might find out. We might find out who the Nuggets will be playing next, if anyone. Will they be playing the Wolves one more time? And we may know who the Avalanche are playing with Minnesota and Dallas tonight in game 6. Minnesota has a chance to close out the series. Nathan McKinnon was asked how much he's watching this series. It's so long, how long we've waited for it feels like they played the Kings a year ago. But Nathan McKinnon's not going to be watching hockey tonight. He's watching the Nuggets to see if they can force a game 7. Nathan McKinnon winning hearts and minds across the state of Colorado. We'll take a break. Speaking of the Avs, Scott Wedgwood, like he always does, great perspective on being absolutely snubbed as a Vezina Trophy finalist. And you'll hear Nazem Kadri wanting Dallas and Minnesota to play till the end of time. We continue to wait and wait and wait for the Colorado Avalanche to find out their next opponent and get their second round series going. We waited all year for the rematch between the Avalanche and the Stars, and we continue to wait, and we may not even get Avs Stars. It may be Avs Wild. Dallas in the same situation the Nuggets are in. They got to win the next two, or else they are done. Nazem Kadri, though, doesn't care about how long we've been waiting. He wants things to go on even longer.
I think we're rooting for a game 8, maybe a game 9 too. I think, of course, you want it to go as long as it can. Both great teams. I mean, showcasing their talents, but I'll certainly be, doing a bit of a pre-scout for game 6. And either way, we're going to be comfortable and excited to play.
And look, this rest versus rust thing, it comes up every year, especially around the Colorado Avalanche, because it seems like if you just look long term, I know what happened last year. Generally, the Avalanche kind of get through a team pretty quick. The worst was waiting for the Stanley Cup final to begin when they swept Edmonton, and you're waiting and waiting and waiting. But the rest versus rust thing, it always comes up. Rest is always better. It's always better. There is zero argument to say, would you rather rest or would you rather not rest? You'd rather rest, especially in a sport like hockey. I mean, we always find this out after the season. It's actually become a kind of a fun pastime for people who follow hockey. Wait for a team season to be over, and then just the laundry list of maladies that they have been suffering from. I remember the Panthers. I think the Panthers, after they won the Stanley Cup either last year or the year before, had somebody with a broken foot. Somebody else was like missing a spine or something. Like the craziest injuries come out of the end of a hockey season. And also, even if they're not crazy and exotic injuries, you go, how did this guy play the entire postseason with this? So these guys are incredibly banged up. Not to mention that Josh Manson is like out, and they need to get him back. So rest is always preferred. The rust part of it is real too. But for how long? Again, why the 7-game series format is superior is because the rust thing, it doesn't ultimately end up mattering in the end. Not really. Like, how long does the rust? Do you remember a team that was rusty for 7 games? Here's where I think the rust will manifest itself, if it does for the Avalanche. First period of game 1. First period of game 1. And look, I'm not trying to completely diminish the impact of that. I mean, if they fall behind by 3 goals to Dallas or Minnesota, it might end up costing them game 1. But it's not going to continue into game 2 with the days in between and everything like that. It doesn't take these guys long to get back in the swing of things. But yeah, first period, first half of the first period, I fully expect, regardless of the opponent, for the Colorado Avalanche to look a little off. That's where having a very good goaltender, dare I say, Vezina Trophy finalist caliber goalie, helps. Because I know he's got to battle some of this himself, but there are more guys playing in front of him. And if there are a few of them who aren't quite clicking on all cylinders, that's where you look to your backstop and say, okay, can you make a couple of big saves as we get our legs back under us? But rest, is a weapon. Rest is vital, and rest is in limited supply once you get into the postseason. So there is, I'm not saying there aren't cons to the Avalanche wrapping up their series as quickly. The pros column is way longer. So if this is a debate, rest versus rust, I'll take rest. Rest is better. Not as worried about rust. And Nazem Kadri is telling you, like, we're good. And this is, again, the whole plan. I know in the what feels like months since the Avalanche played, we've asked this question 18 different ways. The Avalanche set out with a goal to be able to give themselves what they have right now. Don't pay any attention to what they say about the LA Kings. Okay? And it wouldn't matter if it was LA or Utah or Nashville or Winnipeg. The whole goal of the Avs, knowing the way that the tournament is set up, they wanted the top seed because they knew that if they were right and if they played to their fullest capabilities, they would dispatch of their first round opponent quickly. And as the season wore on and you looked at the wild card teams and especially the Pacific Division, you're like, oi, the Avs in 3. But they wanted this. It was a goal of theirs to get this break because they expected for them to end their series fairly quickly, and they expected Minnesota and Dallas to be an absolute war, and it has been every bit that. So there is no remorse from the Colorado Avalanche. There are no regrets. They wanted this exact situation, and they are loving the fact that they're going through light morning skates and getting to go home and relax. Scott Wedgwood has relished the opportunity to put his kids to bed every night recently. Scott Wedgwood also with phenomenal perspective, and the type of perspective that only happens when you've been through what Scott Wedgwood has been through in his professional career. Here's Scott Wedgwood asked about being snubbed for the Vezina Trophy.
Yeah, you put chip on your shoulders in situations like that. I think a little bit of it probably wasn't playing enough games. With great numbers and less games played, it's almost more of a chip on my shoulder, right? You get more starts, you have a chance to make a few more mistakes and games level out. But to do what I did as a team in front of this group, proud of that. And, the awards obviously would have been cool, but obviously not the main focus like the Stanley Cup is right now. And go about it and just keep working and improving myself.
And you see how he got into the more canned response as he went along. The first part of it is what you need to latch onto. This is motivating for him. He even mentioned it's kind of like when he was in the conversation for Team Canada and ultimately was left off the roster. This is a guy who has had to summon every angle that he can, every perceived slight, every bit of motivation he could grab to be able to hang on to his NHL career for dear life. And why should that change now that he's arguably one of the best goaltenders in the league, at least this year? I mean, it's like, and the athlete in Colorado that I will always point to first when it comes to this mentality is Chris Harris Jr., the great corner for the Denver Broncos. This is a guy that was undersized, undrafted, coming out of Kansas, and had a scratch and claw for everything, had to find every reason to be motivated to get up the next day and work as hard as he needed to make an NFL career for himself. Scott Wedgwood's the same way. And I'm not going to sit here and reverse what I felt yesterday. I still think it's preposterous that we're 2 significant awards in and the Avalanche don't have one of the 3 most deserving candidates for said award. But I listen to Scott Wedgwood and I say, if you're an Avs fan, it's probably for the best. If the Scott Wedgwood that the Avalanche have gotten to this point is because the chip on his shoulder is big, the last thing you need is something chipping away at that chip for him getting the recognition that he rightly deserves. Right? If Scott Wedgwood is going to add this to the chip on his shoulder, that is good news for the Colorado Avalanche. Still means he was snubbed. But maybe the way that he operates may not be the worst thing in the world that he got snubbed. Today, Lady Bing. The Lady Bing came out today. I don't know if you're a hockey fan, am I the only one who, when I hear about the Lady Bing Award, I immediately think of Paul Kariya? Like, it's almost Pavlovian, the response. I feel like there was a time growing up where Paul Kariya won the Lady Bing 8 years in a row. Paul Kariya, formerly of the Colorado Avalanche, but most famously of the Anaheim Mighty Ducks. And they were mighty back then. I always think of Paul Kariya. No Avs for the Lady Bing this year either. That one, I got to say that's fair. Lady Bing, gentlemanly conduct, not saying that the Avalanche are a bunch of scoundrels, but, you know, Josh Manson is top 15 in penalty minutes this year. This Avs team has a Nazem Kadri, Nathan McKinnon. Like, they have some guys, Gabriel Landeskog, willing at any time to throw hands. They're not scoundrels, but they got an edge to them that probably takes them out of the running for the Lady Bing. So for one day, I'll get off of my soapbox. The Avs were not snubbed for an NHL award today. But I will restart tomorrow. And I don't even know what it is. Is it the Jack Adams? Please tell me, Ray, it's the Jack Adams. Because if it's the Jack Adams, it's going to be great. Because Jared Bednar led the Avs wire to wire as the best team in the league. And he's not going to be a finalist. So we'll see what award comes out. Finalists for the award come out tomorrow, and for what award it may be. Let's get, Ray, if you got the text line or Facebook up. I see that on Instagram and X and everything, we're getting some response to either what we're talking about today or what you've posted from previous days. Go ahead. We got a couple minutes here, so carte blanche, you pick.
So from Ryan, McKinnon is looking forward to Game 6 tonight. Love to see them support each other. Let's go.
Yep, Nazem Kadri and many of the boys are going to be watching the Wild and the Stars. Nathan McKinnon going to be locked into Game 6 like the rest of us.
From Jason, don't discount yourself, sir. You and Roland are huge parts of what makes the club so great. Still our city, our team.
Oh, that's in response earlier. The context of it, I wanted to shout out Jason and many of the Switchback supporters for the community they've grown over the years. That kind of felt like it reached a tipping point last night at Dick's Sporting Goods Park. Just the amount of Switchbacks fans that were there, and I want to give credit, and that's sweet of Jason to say, and it has meant a lot to Roland. I know I speak for Roland and myself to be along for the ride. He's been along with the Switchbacks longer than I have. We feel incredibly fortunate to be involved with the club the way that we are. And we do that kind of annoying sports thing where we go, we do that. I try not to do that with most teams. With the Switchbacks, I do. I don't know if we don't. I mean, I wanted to bring their games on to this radio station, to Extra Sports 1300. I recognize their importance. And if I did do anything to help build the following of the club, then I'm honored to do that. So that's very nice of you to say, Jason, but certainly you and Annie and Greg and all those fine folks have done way more than I have.
All right, just a little fun one before we go. Brett has a suggestion for you.
Okay, I'm all ears when Brett's got a suggestion for me.
To increase your viewership online.
Okay.
2 words, tube top.
Nobody wants to see that. I feel like you're sabotaging me, Brett, and I'm not going to let you. But also at the same time, I'll be wearing a tube top in hour number 3. Hello there. Welcome in. Glad to have you, whether you're listening on 740 KVOR, Extra Sports 1300, or the apps of those two fine radio stations, which I would highly recommend. You just make that the way you listen to this show or any on either of these two radio stations. Radio's convenient too, but crystal clear streaming audio. It's nice. And it's free. Free to download, free to use, sponsored by Diversus Health, mental health and well-being for all. And shouts to those of you watching the live stream of the show. I don't know why my camera keeps doing this. Stay, camera. That's fun, live radio and live video streaming as well. My hand like covering the camera. You can watch the show anywhere you scroll at 740 KVOR and at Extra Sports 1300. But most importantly, talking to me and I talking to you. Conversational. 719-247-1313 is the number to call or text in the show, or you could just drop a comment on the live stream. Perhaps you have a thought or two on the three stories that are driving the show today. All right, let's start with a double dip of Nuggets conversations. Here's David Adelman on what he has learned about winning this series, or about what they can do to win this series in advance of tonight's Game 6 in Minnesota.
More depth. I thought the guys that came in changed the game for us. And then not to mention, I just thought we played a much more comfortable game. Looked more like us.
So we have, and it's funny how things come full circle like this. All of the conversation this offseason, not just around the Denver Nuggets, but around the NBA, if you want to win a title in the Thunder's reign, REIGN, not RAIN, you need depth. And even talking about Indiana getting to the NBA Finals was their depth. So that was what the Nuggets needed to get, was depth. And they did that, or at least they appeared to, by getting Cam Johnson and Jonas Valanciunas and bringing back Bruce Brown. And then we've had so many other things pop up along the way. But depth has always been there as an underlying current with this team. And now here we are once again with the Nuggets season on the line for at least one more game. Technically, it would be on the line for Game 7 as well. And we're talking about depth. The Nuggets needing depth to win. And it doesn't have to be depth like, hey, Spencer Jones, go out and score 20 again like you did in Game 5. It's the depth that Jonas Valanciunas and Tyus Jones brought the other night. Tyus Jones did not play a lot of minutes, nor I think Valanciunas got 10, maybe. But it's about what they bring. I compared it at the start of the show to like a major league bullpen, or at least the way I grew up imagining an MLB bullpen. Now it's all over the place. I don't know how they handle their bullpens these days, but they had specialists, right? Right on right, left on left, setup, closer, long relief. That's what Jonas Valanciunas and Tyus Jones in Game 5, they were specialists. Jonas, you're a huge human being. Go be a huge human being and throw your huge body into smaller people to get our best players free to shoot shots. Tyus Jones, one of our best players, is getting tired having to deal with Jaden McDaniels up and down the floor every single possession. We're going to give him a breather. You got to be able to bring up the ball. So these specialists that only play a few minutes, but mean something. And I think what they add up to more than anything else is the ability for Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic to do their thing. Because the depth is important, but if you don't have that star duo of yours, you're not going to win. You're not going to win this series. So what the depth does, to me, the way I look at it is not so much what can the depth do in terms of their own production. What can the depth do to help the production of Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic? Because I think a key for tonight, and it applied in Game 5, and it will apply to Game 7. It's just a little bit more so because the game's on the road. The Nuggets have to start fast. And that's a lot, Jokic and Murray, isn't it? But then you can't allow Minnesota to go on runs. And then the third thing is have your best players be the best players on the court. You do those things, you're going to win tonight, and you're going to win Game 7. It's all so simple, isn't it? Winning in the NBA. I should be a head coach. I heard that the Blazers' new owner is looking for someone who would be willing to be the lowest paid coach in the NBA. Yo, I would be willing to be the lowest paid head coach in the NBA. Give me that Blazers job. And clear I could do it. I just mapped out how the Nuggets win tonight. To wit, here's another aspect of tonight, which has been an undercurrent of this entire series. Here's Jamal Murray with story number 2.
It was just on both ends, screen setting. Our box cells just putting 2 guys on Rudy. Rudy's such a good offensive rebounder. So just taking care of him down low, not giving extra possessions, come up with loose balls. Like I said, just the fundamentals, not turn the ball over when we get a stop. Just simple stuff like that's going to win us the game tonight.
All the little things, but sometimes the most difficult thing to do on the road is do the little things. You're looking for a knockout punch. You're looking, for the big play that will shut down the opposing fans or shut them up more accurately. But it's still doing those little things, and they're more difficult to do on the road. The physicality you saw from the Nuggets in Game 5, that's awesome, and that has to be brought to tonight. It's harder to do. The whistle may not be as favorable. The environment certainly isn't. But the Nuggets must bring that physicality from Game 5. That, along with the play of Nikola Jokic, were the most significant things that happened in Game 5. The Nuggets have to be physical. Jonas Valanciunas helps with that if he gets some minutes here and there. I don't know if Aaron Gordon's going to play. I have Ray literally refreshing X every 2 seconds to see. Hey, he just refreshed just now. I saw out of the corner of my eye to see if there is an updated injury report. I don't know if Aaron Gordon's going to play, and I don't know that he should. I don't know how impactful he can truly be tonight. If he does play and he is impactful, he can help with that physicality. But so much of Aaron Gordon's game is physicality. And if the Nuggets are going to look to turn this into a backyard brawl here, I think it's more reason to let Aaron Gordon sit and hope that the team gets the job done coming back to Game 7. And I saw something on ESPN, one of the reporters, Anthony Slater, that they had in Minnesota. I think he brought up a good point. I think it would not be the worst thing for the Denver Nuggets to just say, Aaron Gordon, you're not playing at all the rest of this series. We're going to do this for you. We're going to get through this series, and we're going to hope that you are right and ready to go against San Antonio. It's a gamble, no doubt about it. But so is throwing out Aaron Gordon when he is extremely hampered by this calf injury. And if physicality is on the menu tonight, I don't know how physical Aaron Gordon can be. But the Nuggets got to be. They got to be physical tonight if they are going to win this Game 6 at 7:30 on Extra Sports 1300. Now we shift gears to story number 3.
I couldn't be prouder of the effort. Couldn't be prouder of how much we were able to showcase ourselves in the ugly moments, in the tough moments, in the moments that don't show up on the stat sheet. I thought there was some huge standout performances too, and also at the same time gutted that we didn't take an opportunity, especially when they had 10 men, and then on penalties too. Yeah, it's you know me. I'm never going to be happy. I'm miserable anyway. But so much. You're right. So much positive to take out of it. And then I was absolutely blown away by the supporters.
That is Switchbacks head coach
when I
Alan
saw the
McCann,
tifo.
who joined me about 2 hours ago on this show, talking about perfectly encapsulating what last night was at Dick's Sporting Goods Park. Yes, the Switchbacks did not get what they came for, which was a win. 5-4 on penalties after 120 minutes of soccer. That was nip and tuck the whole way through. It ended 2-2, and the Rapids ultimately just got the winning penalty kick underneath a diving Christian Herrera, and they move on to the round of 16. So they did not get the thing that they went up to Commerce City to get. But maybe they didn't leave Commerce City empty-handed. And into the last part of what Alan McCann said there, the support that they received, and I get it, it's Denver, it's still a road match. And I-25, traveling up that sometimes feels like, you're on the New Jersey Turnpike or you're driving clear across the country. People can't take for granted how much of an effort people put in to drive simply from Colorado Springs to Denver. And there were plenty of people who made that trip to take an opportunity that they wouldn't otherwise have to support the Switchbacks away from Widener Field. And it feels like the little, I shouldn't say little moments. It's a big moment to win a title. It's a big moment to beat an MLS club. It's a big moment to be able to play the MLS club in your state. So these are big moments, but they're stacking up. And it feels to me like people are noticing the standard that has been set at the club. And they're responding to it. There could be no more truer thing said about sports and sports fans than this. Everybody loves a winner. And if you're winning in all competitions, if you're taking it to the team that occupies the top of the American soccer pyramid, if you're winning titles, people will come out. People will support. And it feels like it was a significant night in that regard, even if the Switchbacks didn't get a win. Because, there are plenty of people from the Springs that came up to Denver. What's to keep people from Commerce City from coming down to Colorado Springs and supporting the club too? What a show. What a show by the Switchbacks as a team on the field to go punch for punch with a quality MLS side. And what a showing by the Switchbacks fans making the trip. And it certainly were louder than the Rapid supporters. I think they outnumbered them as well. Well done all around. Was just missing that final piece. As important as the result is, right? Still feels like the Switchbacks did not come away empty-handed last night at Dick's Sporting Goods Park. 719-247-1313. Take your thoughts on the three stories that are driving the show. We'll continue on after this on 740 KVOR and Extra Sports 1300. Nights like tonight, Game 6, Nuggets and Wolves, 7:30 on Extra Sports 1300. They tend to bring out some unlikely heroes, and we've been kind of discussing that with David Adelman talking about depth, right? Tyus Jones and Jonas Valanciunas and Spencer Jones and what they were able to do in Game 5. Ray brought up something during the break or said something, and it got me thinking. As we, try to figure out, who's going to be the hero, but not just that, because it's easy to say Jamal Murray or Nikola Jokic, right? Or Aaron Gordon has his Willis Reed moment tonight. But we normally look for unlikely heroes. Like, oh yeah, okay, Jokic, Murray, like we got that. But then who? Minnesota is doing that all over the place now because of the injury to Ant and DiVincenzo, and maybe DeSomu is out. But I was thinking about this with the Nuggets. One player, because I've talked about this before, depth doesn't necessarily just have to be the guys that are further down on the bench. It's just the supporting cast. Your star duo or your star, one star, whatever it might be, they got to be the constant. Okay? Because none of this other stuff is going to matter if your best players aren't your best players in a game like this. But depth can be the guys towards the end of the bench, Valanciunas and Tyus Jones. But they can also be the guys that are on the floor all the time with Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic, maybe doing some things to help. And I think there were some of those players in Game 5. I thought Cam Johnson was one of them. But who would be maybe the most unlikely hero of tonight? Or we could play this game before Game 7 if we get there tomorrow. We have not once mentioned Christian Brown. Perhaps the most unlikely hero for the Denver Nuggets tonight or in a potential Game 7 would be Christian Brown. But what a time for Christian Brown to start to look like the guy that was a key rotational piece that helped the Denver Nuggets win a title. I don't know that we've really seen it for any significant amount of time this year. What a time it would be. And I'll extend the window. It could be tonight. It could be Saturday. It could be in round 2. It would sure be great for the Denver Nuggets if Christian Brown left you with a lasting impression of this season's version of him, to think, oh yeah, he's getting paid $20 million next year. I'm okay with that. Because whenever this season ends for the Denver Nuggets, there's going to be a lot of uncomfortable conversations about who stays on this team. And that conversation will eventually come around to, oh yeah, I forgot the Nuggets gave Christian Brown $20 million a year. How about tonight, or how about Game 7? Even better tonight, right? Because the more of a role player you are, the less likely it is that you're going to make a huge impact on the road. Christian Brown is a key role player, or supposed to be one. Wouldn't tonight be an amazing night for Christian Brown to have a great game? I feel like he's the name I have mentioned the least of the players who have actually played in this series. We've had more conversations about Jonas Valanciunas and Julian Strawther than we have Christian Brown. That can't be the case. So as I'm looking at who needs to be the unlikely hero, who needs to be that third guy tonight, especially if Aaron Gordon's out, how about Christian Brown? How about it? Because if Aaron Gordon's out, they're going to need a third guy just to be sure. Maybe 2 gets it done with how shorthanded the Wolves are. But a third would be great. Spencer Jones was that guy in game 5, excuse me. One of these playoff games, Christian Braun's got to step up and be a big part of the story. He just hasn't been at all. So maybe tonight's the night for Christian Braun. It would behoove both him and the Denver Nuggets if he were able to pop up tonight and contribute in a big way. And with these 2 days, and I've spent a lot of it, obviously with the switchbacks, but watching some hockey as well. But last night was kind of an interesting night to kind of survey the landscape in the NBA. There are pretty much every series is just as wild as this Nuggets Wolves series. Have you noticed this? The swings in the conversation, right? So we've had this in the Nuggets Wolves series. The conversation was, oh my God, the Timberwolves are killing the Denver Nuggets. The Nuggets have no effort, nothing. The Wolves are going to run through them, all this kind of stuff. And the reasons partly as to why the series has shifted the way it has, or why it is perceived that it will shift ultimately. Last time I checked, the Wolves are still up in the series. But the swing of perception of this series, we know the reasons for it, but we've completely changed the way we think about this series just over the last 2 games. But this is happening all over the league. Right? We have the Hawks-Knicks game on in studio right now. There was a time where the Knicks were in big trouble, and they just went on a 14-0 run to have a 10-point lead in an elimination game. I think the best example of this in the NBA, how about that Orlando-Detroit series? Couple of games in, it was like, wow, this is the Magic team that everybody has been waiting for. And look, I'm one of those people. I thought the Magic would be really good this year, and they really weren't. But here's the Orlando Magic team that we've all been waiting for. And the Detroit Pistons, they're fraudulent. That series has completely changed now. And all it took was a little 40-piece by Cade Cunningham. That's simple. And another series in the West, and this has been honestly the wildest swing. What's going on in the Lakers-Rockets series is absolutely bananas. Because we went into that series saying, and I mean the collective we, I remember very distinctly saying that I thought that LeBron could come up with a game 1 performance like he did. And then he did it again. And then he did it again. And it's, everyone marveling at LeBron, that tweet where somebody says, my sister just woke up from a coma, and somebody goes, tell him Braun's still doing it. And it was unbelievable. And I remember I said, Lakers aren't going to win a title. This is as high a note as he can go out on. If he leads the LA Lakers past the Houston Rockets in the first round without Austin Reeves and without Luka Doncic, that would be the perfect way for LeBron to go out if he wanted to. And now it's being openly discussed whether the Lakers are going to be the first team in NBA history to blow a 3-0 lead. We're always prone to these wild mood swings based on a game. But it just feels like there have been 3 or 4 series that everyone has been so sure would go one way going in, game or two in, they swing the other way, and now we're back the other way. But for the record, I don't think that the Lakers are going to become the first team in NBA history to blow a 3-0 lead. I don't. You do see that LeBron is not capable at his age of carrying the Lakers for an entire series. Like, that's what we've been able to kind of settle down on a little bit. What he did early on in the series is remarkable, and they may need to summon that. I don't like to say old man because him and I are the same age, but that less than or more than young man strength for one more game to close out the Houston Rockets. Doesn't change how remarkable the start of the series was for LeBron. But we knew that for 6-7 games, he wasn't going to be able to keep doing it. We knew. I think either he summons it one more time or somebody else steps up or they get Austin Reeves. What's Austin Reeves' status? That they were supposed to kind of get him back maybe. I think that the Lakers find a way to advance. And then they're going to get absolutely eviscerated by the Oklahoma City Thunder. But so would the Rockets. So there's that. What is Austin Reeves' status?
He played yesterday.
Oh, yeah. Did he?
Yeah.
Must have missed that.
You were a little busy.
I was. So he is back.
Yeah, he's back.
Okay. So Austin Reeves with the game under his belt could be that difference maker. Do you think that the Rockets finish this off and rally from 3-0 down? You don't think so, do you?
Not without Kevin Durant.
Yeah. Or let me pose this because it will lead into something else that you and I were discussing during a break. Are the Rockets better off without Kevin Durant in the lineup?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because they were still they're a young team, still trying to figure out who's going to be the guy. And Şengün supposed to be the guy. Well, if you have KD there who would run the offense and basically being the primary scorer.
Well, that's what they miss. They do miss Fred VanVleet, who would be running their offense.
Mm-hmm.
So you're saying that the Rockets aren't better without Kevin Durant. That Kevin Durant's absence is not
what I'm saying
part
is,
of this.
When KD's on the floor, it's KD ball. It feels like when he's out, more movement, more people getting involved.
Okay. So we're on the same page.
Yes.
That part of the reason why the Rockets, in addition to the Lakers side of the story, is LeBron can't carry the team for a 7-game series. The Rockets side of it is that they have been better without Kevin Durant on the floor.
Mm-hmm.
And it would sure be great for the Houston Rockets if Kevin Durant would, show up and be the best player on the floor one more time or a couple more times here to rally them in the series. But, I was thinking about this. Ray was talking about a lot of people are theorizing that Kevin Durant's going to end up in Denver or can see the merit of it. Like, there was a time this very season that I thought that Kevin Durant was changed, was a changed man. He's not. He is going to ultimately leave the Houston Rockets in worse shape than he found them, which has been a trademark of Kevin Durant's career. And it's because of him. And it's, the in Brooklyn, it's him and Harden and Kyrie getting getting Steve Nash fired, or wanting Steve Nash in the first place and then firing him, and part of it is what you have to give up to get a player like Kevin Durant. I mean, honestly, Rockets fans, would you rather at this point have Kevin Durant or Jalen Green? But it's what you give up to get him that alters your team in maybe some fundamental ways, and maybe not for the better. But it's also some of the antics. And the Rockets were what the Spurs are this year. Last year, they bring in KD, missing piece, boom, Rockets title contender. They were worse during the season, and they're on the verge of getting bounced in the first round. So even though I was guilty of thinking that the Kevin Durant experience in Houston would be better, it clearly hasn't been. Why would I invite that onto the Denver Nuggets when there is a perfectly good 41-year-old legend in LA right now that is available via trade this offseason? Why would I want? But in all seriousness, though, who would you rather have on your roster? Ray, let me ask you, who would you rather have on your roster right now? Kevin Durant or LeBron James?
Kevin Durant.
That is a bold-faced lie. You would not rather have Kevin Durant on your team than LeBron James. How could you be saying that with the way things have gone?
Because, yeah, it's been fun for LeBron to turn it on for a couple of games, but you have to look at the whole picture. It's fun for him to turn it on, but is he like that the whole season?
No. But
Right.
you don't need him to be, and you're going to, and it's the same argument you brought up during the break about why you think you would like Kevin Durant on the Denver Nuggets, because he's not the guy.
Yeah.
LeBron doesn't have to be the guy.
But I feel, and I know the argument is like what we talked about with surrounding Jokic with shooters. I just feel if there's more consistency with the shot, it's Kevin Durant.
I'm not on the idea of surrounding Jokic with shooters.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I want the best basketball players possible. And if I can get a specific skill set, I would either like to have players that have that dog in them or can create their own shots. And in lieu of that, and Kevin Durant would be somebody that could. Fair. But Kevin Durant gets shots for Kevin Durant. LeBron James with Nikola Jokic would get shots for everybody.
That's a good point. And also, are we taking outside antics off it? Like it's just straight ball?
No, it can't be. I'm just asking, as they currently stand, would you rather have LeBron James or Kevin Durant on your team?
You know what? I concede.
It's the total package. LeBron James is 41 years old. You got to deal with that. You got to deal with the fact he's 41 years old, but you got to deal with the fact that Kevin Durant is more chronically online than my kids are. You got to deal with all of that. You take the good with the bad. Those are, as I've been told, the facts of life.
And another thing is, like, at least with Kevin Durant, LeBron, we would have a good idea of what we could trade for him. And it seems like a win-win.
It's cleaner. That's a good point.
Yeah.
It's cleaner. It's Kevin Durant. Some of the mock trades, I'm like, you want to? Some of the Kevin Durant mock trades are essentially what I was just talking about. That teams will fundamentally change their roster to have to bring this guy in, either just because the players, you have to give valuable players in return, or because it takes just so many of your players that it fundamentally changes who you are, or you trade a glue guy to make the money work. And then that, like Aaron Gordon, hasn't Aaron Gordon been put in all these Kevin Durant trades?
Yeah, no, I wouldn't.
I mean, he would have to be.
No.
Would you be willing to do that? No.
The only Aaron Gordon trade possible that I would like to explore is Giannis.
I don't think I want him either.
So you would take LeBron over Giannis right now? If the trades were clean
Again, we're
both
not
ways.
talking about just ball, right? We're not talking about just ball.
Okay.
Giannis has been doing this like passive aggressive nonsense that LeBron used to do,
Okay.
but he's grown out of it because he's 41 years old and not the impact player he once was. Giannis is doing this stuff. I don't think I want those. If we're trying to salvage the last year, and I talked about this earlier this week, championship windows in the modern age of the NBA typically last for 4 to 7 years. We're in year 6 for the Nuggets. So if we're trying to maximize the 1 year, LeBron has been, I think he played more games than Giannis this year.
Okay.
Didn't he? He's not going to upset the culture of the team. He's grown out of all of that.
Okay.
At 41 years old.
Yeah, he played significantly more games than Giannis.
Now, if you're telling me that if you do see a fundamental flaw with the way your roster is constructed, and you could take a lot of guys and trade them for like Giannis, and you're telling me that this is you're willing to fundamentally alter because what you have doesn't work. Like, and I guess that just goes to whether the Nuggets win tonight or game 7 is going to tell a lot here. Are we going to say that this team needs a tweak, or do they need to be stripped down to the studs, moving forward? Because if you want to strip down to the studs and completely remake the Denver Nuggets, then Giannis may be the better thing. If you just need a tweak, but a tweak to your team that you think is actually going to move the needle, to go for it 1 year to try and maximize that, I think there's an argument to be made that LeBron would be better in that spot than Giannis. Because Giannis is going to want to go to a place that is going to build around him. Maybe there's another star there, certainly, but he's going to want the team built around him in perpetuity.
Okay.
And I don't know that he's a guy that you want to build around anymore, to be honest, with his mostly because of his injuries.
So your list would be
LeBron to the Nuggets. That's what I'm saying. Let's bring that back.
Let's get it trending.
Yep.
LeBron to the Nuggets. I don't disagree with you, but I
need you to say you agree with me. I need you to say it out loud.
Over Giannis and KD.
Can we just say this?
Okay.
It's probably not a good idea to bring in Kevin Durant. Can you at least acknowledge that it's probably not a good idea to bring in Kevin Durant?
I can't. I feel like it's not a
terrible.
It's not a terrible idea.
When you get your wish, just what's that saying? Be careful what you wish for.
I'm not wishing for it.
Yeah, you are.
No,
I said it would be a bad idea, and you're like, no. So you're wishing that it would happen.
I'm not saying like, oh, I hope it happens. I'm in the hypothetical world where it's gonna go down. I don't think it's a bad idea, but if I was front office, no, I'm not trying to do it. But at the same time,
that's what I'm saying. We agree. Can't you just agree with me for once? Unbelievable. We're saying the same thing. It's not a good idea to bring in Kevin Durant. And part of the reason, not the whole reason, but part of it, that the Rockets have been able to put the fear of God into the LA Lakers now is because Kevin Durant has been off the floor.
Okay. I agree.
As talented as he is. Yeah. And I'm not taking that away from him. 43-15, by the way. I think the Knicks are going to. Somebody shows. Oh, it's the games in Atlanta. What am I talking about? I was like, someone shows Chalamet. Wait, was that Kylie? Are they down there?
I wouldn't doubt it.
Chalamet made the trip to the ATL? Check on that. Sad Timothy Chalamet trending on Twitter. Anyway, what does he have to be sad
Wait,
about?
yeah,
The guy's
why would he be
incredibly
sad?
talented, and he's going out with Kylie Jenner.
Why would he be
come
sad?
on
He's
now.
a New York guy.
Right. But no, did you see? This is
It's
so
a whole
not
different
important. But he was in the game the other night that the Knicks ended up blowing them out. They showed Timothy Chalamet. He looked like when they were up big, he looked like he was distraught, and people were saying like, you don't understand being a Knicks fan. like there's some deep wounds there that you know. And I will say this, and we have a Knicks fan down the hallway here. Knicks fans and Nuggets fans, we're not that much different, you and I. Because I think the worry around the Denver Nuggets tonight for Game 6 is not there's maybe no true basketball reason to pick against the Denver Nuggets tonight.
Yeah.
They're favored. They're the healthier team. They have the best player, all this kind of stuff. The only reason why I and other people who aren't quite sold on the Denver Nuggets winning is because it would be so Nuggets for them to have all of these basketball advantages and yet still find a way to lose.
They would play down.
Right, play down to a incredibly banged up Minnesota team. I think that's kind of like what being a Knicks fan is all about.
Would it be more Nuggets to win tonight, go home, and lose Game 7?
Well, that would be. I mean, that goes without saying. That would be the pinnacle. That would be the all timer. But let's get. Can we all agree? Let's get to a Game 7. Better to love than lost than never loved at all.
We will get to a Game 7.
There you go. One more segment. Back to wrap it up after this. Breaking news from Shams Charania. Io DeSumo, the hero of Game 4 for the Minnesota Timberwolves, is out with his calf injury. So, does Aaron Gordon play, Ray? Anything on Aaron Gordon?
Nothing on him.
Okay. Io DeSumo, but let's take I don't want to equate, because I did this the other day with Peyton Watson, like let's not, equate two people's injuries. All right. DeSumo is out because of his injury. How do the Nuggets not win tonight? I mean, literally, how? How do they not win tonight? Edwards, DiVincenzo, Kyle Anderson, for God's sake. Kyle Anderson's out. And Io DeSumo. You feel terrible for the Minnesota Timberwolves if they win and say such nasty things to you online, or maybe that's just me. But, I mean, we got to be getting a Game 7. I told you it would take me a few days, but I would eventually get here. I think the Nuggets do win tonight. And we're talking about a Game 7 tomorrow. You can hear it at 7:30 on Extra Sports 1300, or you can watch it at the Brass Tap on Bass Pro Drive. $3.50 pints of Coors Light, Coors Banquet, Miller Lite, and Mountain Time. That will be it for us. Appreciate your patronage. Thanks to Jessica Mendoza and Alan McCann, Switchbacks head coach. Enjoy your evening. Back tomorrow. Will we be talking Game 7? I think so. We'll see. See you tomorrow.